Well, hello everybody and welcome to a beautiful day here in the prairies, up on one of the roofs of the house at the moment. Figured I'd bring you with me because this is really the perfect example of how everything changes when you change how you look at it. The view is absolutely stunning, a mere 10 feet up from where I normally stand in the yard. And as a bonus, RM is working hard to avoid future flooding. We're digging a trench and a bit of a lake opportunity in the lower part of the field. Everything will melt and drain out there. Should keep the basements a little bit drier. I love this time of year. I, on the other hand, am up here to shovel the roof. Not much fun in that, but I thought I'd share the view before we carry on with the rest of the video, as it were. Well, that task is finished enough. Sun should take care of the rest of this. You know, I've never been up here before. Had no reason to. But I'm thinking second story balcony might not be a bad idea. Beautiful view. Up a little bit closer to the stars. Be some great windmill opportunities in the corners here. Yeah. Someday down the road. Maybe. Alright, down to the basement for the gardening part of today's video. So downstairs here in the dungeon, this is that new shelf that we picked up. They didn't want it. It's a little awkward to disassemble and try and move. Parts of it don't really come apart and the rest of it does, so it's kind of like, oh, what the heck's going on there? But I noticed that these little baskets fit pretty darn well in those shelves. So I'm not quite sure how I'm going to light this up, but it does look like it's going to be a good place for me to maybe start a few seeds. Put, you know, 3 of these in here. I had 4 of them in there like that when I was planning on doing the shard. So that is going to be interesting to see how that develops. Always nice to see the ladybugs running around, complicating the lives for the aphids. Work it, little bugs. Work it. I got so excited to show everybody this little Sugar Rush peach yesterday. Forgot to put the cover back on it. Remembered that late last night. Got it covered up just in time apparently. I did pull that one cucumber out that I was kind of squishing. Obviously there's nothing popping yet in the pepper seeds there. And I haven't checked this today, but I'm betting there's nothing popping in there yet. Way too soon. Way too soon. Oh, there is something, and what do you know? It's more kale. Can tell even just from the seed leaves that that is not the sprout I'm looking for. Just move these chard transplants to a more of a normal light. Looks like they're doing alright. They don't seem to mind the weird spectrum of the LED. That's good, that's good. Back over here you go. It's another place I'm seriously thinking about throwing on the bloom switch. Just for a change in the spectrum. Not sure that would really help though. Seems to be a bit of debate back and forth in the pepper community as to whether or not they're photosensitive or just they'll bloom when they're ready to bloom. Oh, got another ladybug here. Hard at work. So far it looks like most of the things that have been actually transferred into the now aquaponic Euro grower garden are doing fairly well. That kale's doing nicely. Not surprised, not surprised. Of course these green onions are doing great. I'm having a bit of an issue with the leaves, the new leaves on this ahi penic, a bit of internal spotting. So I've downloaded a few leaf assessment charts, for want of a better term, and I'm going to check that out, see what it is. My first inclination is iron, but I always think yellowing is iron, so I'm going to check it before I do anything about it. Oh, speaking about iron. Is it chelated iron? Is it chelated iron? Nobody knows for sure, but I was told by a few different people to pronounce it as chelated, so, or chelate in this case. This is the iron supplement that I use, and this I have been using this same tub ever since I first got iron for the aquaponic garden back in Penticton. I don't use much of it, and it does change the color pretty fierce, so that's part of why I don't use much of it. But it has worked fairly well for me. What's the company here? Not that I'm endorsed or anything, because I'm not. Plant Prod. I don't know, it's an old product that might not even be available anymore. But for those who are curious, there are one of the things that get added to an average aquaponic garden is some form of iron supplement. So yeah, that may be what's going on with these leaves, but I almost think there's more to it than that. Calcium, magnesium, perhaps? You know, a lot of people in the community, as far as hydroponics, will add, what is it, CalMag, which I believe has both calcium and magnesium in it to improve the health of their peppers. I'm not entirely sure that's a fish-friendly product, but I can look into that and ask the company. Things along those lines. Acorn squash doing nicely. Only got a couple of these last year, so I'm really glad to have an early start. I'm hoping that all of the squash I start early this year will do well. So me panning back down here, I've got gold rush zucchini, black zucchini, dark green zucchini, sugar pumpkin, okra. I've got some nice variety going on this half of the table. Everything else around here is peppers and tomatoes, but I swear it's not all salsa garden. It really isn't. It just, well, garden salsa peppers, that kind of goes against my purpose. But Gordon, what are you doing back there, buddy? What are you doing back there, buddy? Yeah, that's what I thought. Got to check out everything. Found interesting lid here. It's about mid-size in that party cup, so I'm going to try cutting around it with an X-Acto knife, is what we call them up here. I don't know what you guys call them down in the States or whatnot, but should work well. And then I can dangle more cups into these darker containers. The offs, like the side roots that were coming off of the one that's in the chicken bucket, are amazing, whereas the ones that are just like in the Folgers coffee cans just seem to be growing more like straight out and down. So yeah, I'm really quite curious to get more of these peppers into those containers and continue just checking the assorted root growth. I suspect the chicken container is going to win because it is darker, but you never know. This plant light's still on both switches here, so it's finally using its full, what, like 250 watts of power or whatever. These LEDs are great for power consumption. I'm not convinced on the spectrum, but you know, with these newer plants, it does seem to be doing all right. I guess I'm just, you know, still a little disappointed because I wasn't able to overwinter my plants from outside, but it really is quite ludicrous to think that for any sort of a reasonable amount added to the hydro bill, we can fake the sun. I mean, let's face it, that's just a lot of growing power. The 2 ladybugs on here just working it. Nice to see so many of them still around. Still kind of waiting for roots out of the bottom of these double cup peppers, and then they'll be ready. But it looks like I've got all my other ducks in a row as far as that goes. So I don't know, maybe some advice from the double cuppers. Do I need to wait? If I just water them from on the top until they develop roots down, will that work just fine? I mean, right now I'm kind of getting the most with the space that I've got. But thanks to those shelves, I'm getting a little bit more space, and I got that door I'm going to convert to a table, and that'll give me a little bit more space. And yeah, there's always more room down here. Plenty that I haven't used yet. You find another shelf in the middle on there. I'm still looking for those lights from Amazon. Haven't been able to get word back from them as to whether or not I'm going to get my money back, or if I have to wait for an undetermined amount of time. But I mean, those do seem to be working on that shelf, so I guess ultimately I could set up another light string down there. And then there's this whole area here that's just mess and Kentucky Harvest. So, although sometimes I think maybe I should start with like basement renos, moving towards a finished basement in this corner, and then I could just move everything over and then do that corner and, you know, kind of work my way around the dungeon. Now these shelves, I'm also thinking about using these as plant holders, really. These suckers were already down here when we moved in, much like, well, I think that's our standard good old-fashioned vacuum, but I think that might be a floor polisher. I don't really know what that is, but it came with the house. And this thing here has some potatoes in it, or it did when I opened it last year anyway, that had a good 2, maybe even 3 feet of roots that have started on there. So I'm almost afraid to open that, but I need to work my way to it, because look at all that. It can support a fair bit of weight. I could have plants on there instead of just stuff. And I'm kind of thinking in the middle shelves here at least, the spotlight or the shop light isn't really being used upstairs, so I could bring that down and I could kind of like shine it down here and maybe fill some of those cubbies with plants. I've got more room. And a curious cat. But yeah, I am by no means maximizing my space down here, so lots of room for improvement. Really would like to finish off that wall. It's not the prettiest thing to see. There's lots of little home improvement projects, we'll call them, I need to get involved in around the house, but so much better doing that with a house you're buying or you have purchased versus doing that in a rental house. You know, your landlord hardly ever gives you back your cash when you're fixing up their place, and you lose everything when you move, so like, bummer. That is my oregano. No, it is. It's my oregano. Ugh. I love the cat, but grr. Thought I'd show you really quick what that iron does to the color of the water. It's like throwing in the yellow food coloring when it comes to making Easter eggs. It's kind of crazy. This tiny little bit here shouldn't make too much of a difference to the fish tank, so I think I am going to add it in and see what it does. But I do think it's something other than iron going on with those leaves. But anyway, into the fish tank. Mix that around a little bit. Fish just don't quite know what to do. Good exercise period though. Remember phys ed class? It's like phys ed for the fish. 2 laps, you little buggers, 2 laps. Get them all worked up. I've got to shake some aphids into here today anyway, so yeah, work up an appetite, little buggers. So after an amazing number of suggestions that I should just put some catmint or catnip or cat grass down somewhere where the cat can get at it, here we have our initial experiment. And yeah, he's going for it. This cat is going to be just whacked today. So I wanna thank you all for that. It's going to be a very interesting afternoon. But in theory, the plant's going to get a good pruning. The plant looks a little wilted and unfortunately felt very heavy with water weight. So I think it does need to be transplanted, possibly into a cloth container. At least something with drainage. I've got a couple of traditional green pots over there. Can do that with. We'll see just how much of is left after he has some time getting whacked on his catmint. Happy cat right there. For you cat owners, this stuff is incredibly winter hardy. It survived our first winter out here in a 3-gallon bucket, sitting in the yard in the snow. The next year I found a sprig, brought it in. It's been transplanted into this Folgers can pretty much ever since, and is growing just fine for now. So yeah, there's a good hardy mint for you guys, cat lovers anyway. So I brought down a little notebook here, brand fresh start, little 3 for $1 kind of school notebook. We have tons of them left over from when the kids were younger, and it's time to start making a list so I have some idea of just what's growing on down here. I have totally lost track. So yeah, I'll be doing that over the next few days, and then we'll check in on that, see what it kind of totals up as. It's going to be kind of interesting. I don't normally have this many tomato starts, if any, maybe 1 or 2. You know, I've definitely had more pepper starts in the past. But, you know, I've got a lot of things planted, and I'm, as always, quite hopeful. So maybe I'll get some more out of that. But this is crazy. And actually, I was just moving these tomatoes around, and I wanted to share something that I think really only gardeners will get. But you know that smell when you knock around a tomato plant that just kind of permeates the air? That to me is one of the most amazing things about being a gardener, is that smell of the garden. Sometimes it's from the various plants, sometimes it's just from the moist earth when you're working it and loosening things up. It's just, I love the smells of gardening. The inside garden comes close, I mean, because you get the aromas of the plants, but the soil's just not the same. Oh, I can't wait till everything melts outside. I gotta say, the smell of that catmint is getting pretty heavy down here as he dives into it. Wow. That is pretty potent. But it's been growing under that LED for quite a while, so in theory the oils in it should really have developed, right? That was the theory about why this rosemary is so particularly aromatic. It's interesting, so I've got the 2 lights under this shelf now because I still haven't checked into the driver on the one. And this one is definitely much more in the purple blue, and this one definitely seems to be a lot more into the red spectrums. I don't know. I kind of like this. I think this is probably a better spectrum for trying to get upward growth out of your plants, and this feels to me more like it's towards that fall spectrum, but I don't know. Thinking seriously about moving that sage down here though. Maybe put the elderberry somewhere else. I mean, it's supposed to be outside anyway. Never gonna make it, but I don't know. Yeah, let's grab the sage before I change my mind. You know, now that I actually come to pull this black lace elderberry out from there, it is not a terribly happy looking plant. Let's try a different light spectrum for this one, I guess. Over with the oregano, perhaps. You can kind of get a blend of everything. Maybe I'll like that better. Nice little garden ledge going along the front there. I guess if these lights really do their job, I'll get a little jungle effect. Could be nice, could be nice. You gonna save some of that for later, big guy? Yeah? If you eat it all at once, it won't be there next time. Just saying. Kind of worry for the dog when Cat goes upstairs now. This is kind of the first time little Gordon's ever had access to that plant. I normally just give him a sprig from it and run away before he attacks me, but this is going to be interesting. Alright, I need to plant more pepper. So with the lost now found box of missing pepper seeds, I had set a lot of these up to sprout them in the styrofoam cups, but as we can see from the assorted unsprouted styrofoam cups, that doesn't necessarily seem to be working very well for me. I mean, I've had a few things that have definitely sprouted in there, but not enough that I'm convinced it's worth it. So, not quite sure what I'm gonna do here. I swear most of my garden time down here is really just one giant game of Tetris. As you can see, I have kind of rearranged the shelf while we've been down here today. Got quite a few plants stuffed in there, making excellent use of those now 2 surviving LED lights. I wanted to get all the way to that soil off of the table over here to my left, because it is so clearly bowing in the middle here. And that obviously made a fair bit of room for me here. Everything's a little more evenly spaced out. It's all getting better light. You can get a lot more of these red double cups set up here. It's going to be super easy to set it up now with either the coffee cans or the chicken buckets or both. So that's great. I've got a little room back in the behind there that I can still fill up. I can move the tomatoes in. This is excellent. So far, the game of Tetris is going along well. It's all kind of started because of this new black shelf here and these delightful little trays that seem to fit in it just perfect. So I've set this up right by our furnace. In theory, this is the warmest place I can offer it in the basement. I would have had it over just a little bit, but the floor is not exactly balanced there, apparently. So yeah, it's going to stand right here, and I'm going to start transferring in all of these unsprouted peppers because they're taking up space here, and, well, it's warmer there, so that should help. I mean, I know the styrofoam is a bit of an insulator, but whatever, still being in a warmer environment is bound to help, and I want to be able to play with planting more seeds, you know, hence the box right there. So yeah, I wonder how many trays I'm going to fill up here. So while it might not be the brightest idea out there, I am still using the styrofoam cups that I've pre-labeled with all of these various seed names and such. I'm just taking this here pencil, punching a couple of holes through the bottom like so, slapping the date on there because I didn't do that in the first place, and I am of course covering them with half water bottles. Since I got, you know, 15 of the other seed plantings into a tray, should be able to get up to 15 on there, so yeah, that'll take the space on the bottom of the shelf and we'll wait it out from there. Looks like these were all the so-called fun peppers though.
Trinidad Scorpion Butch Tea Red, Scorpion Yellow, Moruga Scorpion Caramel. This could be a very painful tray. Well, the next three worked out to be a little more reasonable there. Ancho slash poblano pepper, hot banana pepper, and serrano pepper. Nothing too scary and all that. And I guess we'll just leave the rest of these peppers as a bit of a surprise until we get to the list and or anything sprouts. This video is probably getting to be kind of long at this point. Funny how things turn out sometimes. I guess there were 15 cups prepped and ready to go in that tray, so that's a whole tray. Perfect. So is this going to work for starting my seeds? Honestly, I have no idea, but I sure am hopeful. And, you know, a nice little bonus. Found 2 tomato varieties and all that too, so guess we'll be adding to the collection of those this year. Got a few spaces left in there, don't I? But there's still way more things to start before the snow is even gone. And yeah, I guess that's probably where I'm going to wrap it up today, folks. I have no idea how long the video may have been to this point. Thank you for sticking around, though, if you are still here. And, well, I hope you enjoyed the kind of look at a little bit more day in the life, as it were. I see more seeds. Cantaloupes, melons. I thought I planted those. Alright, well, yeah, I guess I'm not done down here today, and thankfully I've got some more space on the tray over there. I got some more space on the table, so it's all good. I will have room, and I will see you guys tomorrow.